everybody. Welcome to Writers with Purpose. My name is Melvese from Written Words Publishing. At Written Words Publishing, we envision a world where every storyteller, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to share their voice, shape narratives, and impact the world through the written word. And today, our guest will be author Luna Westish. She is the author of a book titled Meet Me in the Ruins, set in 2003 and unfolding against the misty charm of Edinburgh. Meet Me at the Ruins follows Margot, a woman rebuilding herself after heartbreak, chasing clarity through cobblestone streets, cappuccinos, complicated love, and the quiet courage it takes to find your balance in the world. It's tender, it's messy, it's honest, just like life, y'all, just like life. So let's invite Luna up to the stage with us today. Hello, Luna. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me here.
You are very welcome. Thank you for joining us here on Writers with Purpose. So tell us something about yourself and the purpose behind writing Meet Me at the Ruins.
I am a little bit of a multi hyphenate in that my brain likes to do lots of different things. So I write, I do some photography, I teach business to kids. I kind of have this very eclectic, I've built this very eclectic business world for myself because I love to do lots of things. But a couple of years ago, my oldest, who's a teen now, asked if we could write together, like as a sort of a practice. And I was like, that's awesome. Let's go write together. So we started writing together. About once a week at a coffee shop, and Meet Me at the Ruins was born in these coffee shops as a writing practice. And I'm so happy that my first book was not something that I intended to set out to publish, because I feel like after learning a lot more about the publishing world, there are so many sort of boxes that you need to put yourself in if you want to have something that's going to be, commercially successful. And I'm really happy looking backwards that this was just like a writing practice, that this was something that I was trying out and that I was seeing how it fit for me. And after a couple of months of writing, I was like, oh, I actually have this book, and it's developing, and these characters are really lovely, and I want to pursue this, and I want to pursue publication. And I'm really thankful that I didn't know any better when I started, because this book is cross genre. It's college coming of age, it's travel, it's about friendship, it's about romance, but it doesn't fit like cleanly in any of those categories. And looking backwards, I'm like, well, that's actually the kind of books that I enjoy, right? That are a little bit more messy, that are not just like, here's this romance that's happening, but also what's happening in these people's daily lives, their internal lives. And so Meet Me at the Ruins was just sort of this love letter to my younger self, to young women with anxiety, and also to Scotland, because I studied abroad in Scotland in the early 2000s. And it was, just a really magical place to study abroad. And it's just such an amazing city.
That's really cool that you decided to set your book in Scotland. So people who've never been to Scotland, when they read your book, they can kind of get an idea of what it's like over there, right? That's pretty cool. I love how you said it was like a love letter to yourself. It's very, very important that we give ourselves self love. So do you find that you find writing to be therapeutic?
I
Like
do.
no, so go ahead.
I do. I didn't intend for writing to be therapeutic. I was just like, oh, this is just this practice with my kid to sort of support their writing. But writing fiction was new for me. I've written nonfiction quite a bit. I used to write like environmental reports, and I write articles about my life and business and my trauma and things like that. But writing fiction was somewhat new for me, and I found that whatever arc I had planned for these characters would inevitably not happen. Like, the characters wanted to be drawn a certain way, and they got their wish, and they got to be, whoever they wanted to be. But what I found in that was that, like, there were these parts of myself that were cropping up in these characters, or situations that I had been put in as a young adult that were really uncomfortable, were coming up. And it allowed me to metabolize some things that had happened to me in college that I didn't really have words for, or I didn't really have back then, certainly didn't have the vocabulary for, of like a feeling outside of the situation that you're in, of feeling like, why is life a little easier for everybody else? And it's really hard for me. And also, like, why are relationships challenging? And so I found fiction writing to be, for me, surprisingly healing, because I kind of expected it to just be this kind of light, like experience, or not that it was going to be easy, but that I didn't expect to really like dive into some of these challenges that I'd had as a young adult, and sometimes even now. And so being able to write through those situations was a way for me to also metabolize and heal from some of those situations. And so I find writing in general, I think, can be a therapeutic practice. Just the act of writing, I think, can be quite therapeutic. But for me in particular, I found writing fiction to be very therapeutic, because it wasn't trying to get over something, but it was happening anyway.
Yeah, I think one of the beauties about writing fiction is you everything is totally 100% under your control. And you have the ability to shape every single narrative throughout the whole entire story. And the outcome can be exactly what you want the outcome to be. But let's talk about these characters living in your head, because I'm pretty sure any other fiction authors out there can relate to characters living in your head. How did you deal with the characters just taking over your thoughts?
I found that part to be really fascinating, because I'm a very like kind of objective, analytical person. And so all of a sudden to be like, waking up thinking about what should happen to Margot, or like falling asleep dreaming about like her relationship with Ren, or just kind of like daydreaming about Scotland and about the experiences that they were having in Edinburgh. All of these things were really new for me. Like I wasn't expecting that level of like uh almost like obsession. I don't have a better word for it, of like them just sort of constantly existing in my mind for the entirety that I was writing this book, which was about a year. And then throughout the time that I was editing it and querying and then deciding to self-publish and things like that, it was really interesting to just see how the characters changed, and also from like the very beginning of the book to the end of the book, how some of the characters' decision making had changed, and then you have to sort of go through: is that a logical change? Like, are they just growing up, or is that inconsistent with the character? Although there's quite a bit of inconsistency in actual humans, as we know. And so I found that whole process of like that these characters almost existed, like fully formed in my brain without me ever having consciously thought about them, really fascinating, because then it wasn't my job to actually create a story. It was my job to relate a story. Like the story was already there somewhere, buried in my subconscious. And so I found that part of just like sitting down and just typing without like consciously thinking about what I was typing, and the story just putting itself onto the page, was something I never expected. I never expected to have that experience. And that was really, really cool for me. And that's not to say that was always happening. Sometimes I did have to, I had some writer's block, or, I had to, think through some elements of the story. Where is this going? But like I said, I wrote this whole, arc and treatment at the beginning of it. And this is who's going to come in, and this is who's going to be important, and this is who's going to be there at the end. And none of it ended up happening. Everything changed. Just, because like life, like one thing changes, and that sets everybody on a different trajectory, than expected. And I loved that part. I think a lot of people would find that really stressful. Like I didn't write the story I wanted to write, but for me, actually, it felt more authentic. Like I wrote the story that wanted to be written, and I really enjoyed that part.
I wrote the story that wanted to be written. That is a great way to say it. You mentioned writer's block. So here at Writers with Purpose, we like to share writing tips, marketing tips, publishing tips, whatever we can share with our fellow authors. So how did you overcome writer's block? What did writer's block look like for you, and how did you overcome it?
I will tell you this, but I will say this might not work for everyone. The first thing that I did was I just didn't stress out about it. I didn't have a deadline for this book. I wasn't on deadline for, like an agent or anything. I wasn't on deadline for a publishing house. And so to some extent, if I was not in that mode of like creativity of wanting to write, I would just let myself live there for a little while. The second thing that I would do is if I had something that was on my mind where like I knew that I had, administrative work that I needed to do or something like that, I would just get that work done first. And this like flouts all of the rules and the guidelines and everything that people tell you about writing, like, oh, just sit down and write every morning. But if I have like 2 hours of administrative work that I need to do and I have a 4-hour chunk of time, I'm going to be much more productive with 2 hours of writing after I've done that administrative work than 4 hours of writing where I'm stressing out about how much administrative work needs to be done. So for me, a big part of the writing process was sort of letting myself lean wherever I needed to lean that day. So if I needed to lean into being productive in a different way, like cleaning my house, that's okay, because then that frees up space for me the next day or that evening or whatever to be creative. Because I think like a lot of people, like I can only hold so many things in my brain, and I'm neurodivergent and I like to hold lots of things in my brain, but sometimes for writing purposes, that doesn't work super well. So kind of letting go of the expectation of being constantly creative was really helpful for me. That like listen to your body, listen to when you want to sit down and write. And there were days when I literally would sit down and write for 4 hours straight or 7 hours straight. There was one day that I was really trying to finish the book because I had set myself a deadline, and I wrote for 12 hours. And it wasn't consistent, writing for 12 hours, but it was, write for 2 hours, have a coffee, write for 2 more hours, have lunch. And there was a lot of creativity in those days, as much as there was in the days maybe when I only wrote for an hour. So having that like space and grace for ourselves, like that we are not robots, was really helpful. But also, like I said, I'm kind of glad that I didn't know a lot about writing when I started, because the advice to like get up every morning and write for 15 minutes would have been disastrous for me. Like I might have never written a book. That does not work for me. I'm more of like a batch kind of person, like once or twice a week, go to a coffee shop, have my headphones on, have a really like innocuous playlist in the background that I'm not going to try and sing along to. And then I can sit down and write. And so part of also just like not getting writer's block was listening to myself about the conditions that I needed to write, and not try and force it on the days that didn't feel right. So if I woke up and I had a migraine, even if it was a day that I had planned to write, I was just like, you know what? My body is telling me no. And so this is true, I think, as a parent, as a human, as a business owner, but especially as a writer, is that the more that you can listen to yourself and the patterns and what you need to support yourself. With neurodivergence, we call this scaffolding, like the tools that you need to be successful. I think for me, at least, the less I had writer's block, the more I listened to myself, the less I had writer's block. But then when it did come, kind of just letting it exist and just being like, this is also part of the creative process.
Yeah, you are right. So definitely, there's a lot of tips and writing advice out there, but you definitely have to do what is suitable for you, because what works for one person may not necessarily work for somebody else. So you always have to take that in consideration. Don't ever feel like, oh, this person who did this master class on writing said we have to do A, B, and C, and I'm having trouble with A and I can't even get to C. Well, that means A is not for you. You have to figure out what's good for your lane. Well, what do you want the readers to get out of this story? How do you think the readers are going to feel when they close the book after reading the final page?
I've had a lot of people tell me that they really saw themselves in Margot, that the way that I was able to draw her anxiety and her internal world and the sort of difficulty that she exists in the world really resonated for them, especially as a young adult. And that was really cool for me, because obviously when you write characters, you want them to resonate with people. You want them to feel maybe like somebody the person knows. But for people to come over and over and over again and say, like, this really feels like me, this felt like me, I saw this myself in this person, I think has been really special. So I hope that if you are anxious, if you are neurodivergent, that what you get from this is a sense of like comfort and community and knowing that other people are dealing with some of the same issues that you are, and not necessarily having some solution at the end of it, but just that knowing that other people are going through similar things, I think could be helpful. But if you're not neurodivergent and Margot seems quite foreign to you, I think that that's in and of itself something special as well, because then you are exposed to this inner world that's very different from your own inner world. And I think that that can increase our empathy and increase our understanding of the world around us and the people around us. And so I hope that that people come away uh, with a sense of understanding of um, uh, one person's neurodivergent brain, right, which might be very different from other people's, and how people like that exist in their world, whether that's in a way where they see themselves in a mirror or whether that's a way to help them relate to other people in their lives. But I also hope that the book was just fun for folks. Edinburgh has been like a love of my life, and I hope that other people can feel that coming through of how amazing of a city Edinburgh is, and also just like how life can be challenging and life can be um, tricky, but there's still a lot of beauty and a lot of joy in all of that mess. And so that's what I hope people come away with.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, you always want to look for that light at the end of the tunnel. Always think about the positive and always remember that no matter how bad you think it is for you, there is always someone out there who has it worse. So you have to be grateful for what you do have and that you are not experiencing worse, because it could always be worse than what it is. Let's talk about your cover. I like your cover. I think that it really exemplifies your book. You know, you have the ruins and the main character, she's just out there. She looks like she's relaxed.
Mhm.
How did you come up with the design for your cover, and who created it for you? Or, what avenue did you take to get the cover created, I should say?
I have a friend who's an amazing graphic designer. So when I was ready to think about publishing the book, I reached out and I said, like, hey, would you like to work on this with me? Fair warning, I'm going to be very involved. So it wasn't like I passed it off to her and she just made it and then sent it back to me. And I was like, okay, because I knew that like I had some sort of visions in my head of what I wanted, but they weren't fully formed. So it's hard to articulate. So she was amazing at being really iterative with me. So like actually she sent me each of these pieces of grass as different files so that I could move them around. Like that's how like in depth we got with this. But I sent her some suggestions. I sent her about like 20 book covers that I really liked. So kind of I wanted a similar style. And then I also sent her a couple pictures of the ruins because I really wanted to get those on there. This ruin comes up several times in the book. It's obviously part of the title. And originally, we actually had the main character, Margot, with a male friend, lover, sort of ambiguous on the cover. And last minute, like I had even like shown people the cover and like put it on my Instagram. And I was like, you know what? I don't like this. I think she should be by herself. This book is about Margot. Like, yes, it's about romance and yes, it's about friendship, but at the core of it, this is about her and who she is and becoming comfortable with herself. And so I think it resonates more with me if she's on her own and she's, staring at the clouds and dreaming and being peaceful in herself. And so that's kind of where all of this shook out. And I was just really lucky to have an amazing graphic designer like already in my life. I know a lot of people use things like Fiverr, and I think that that's cool as well. But I'm just really thankful I have a lot of artists in my life. So I also was able to run this by a lot of people. So we had like A/B testing basically on the book cover. Like, do you like this one or this one? Do you like when the ruins are filled in? Do you like it when they're white? Do you like it when the font is this or that? So that was a really fun part of the process for me. I think a lot of people get stressed out by that, but for me, that creativity and sort of just figuring out what fits the book, what fits the size of the book, what fits the plot and everything, that was really fun for me.
Yeah, that is really good, and I think you all did a very good job at making the cover fit the story. So that is really awesome. Tell us where we can purchase this book.
You can purchase this book pretty much everywhere books are sold. If you're shopping online, I personally love bookshop.org because they donate a portion of every sale to the bookstore that you choose, which is really cool. But you can also get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pretty much anywhere, Books a Million, things like that. But you can also find it on Hoopla and Libby. And in Libby, if you'd like the book and your library doesn't have it, you can request it. And most libraries are pretty responsive to that. So the book's in, a dozen or two libraries already and widely available on Hoopla if you use that app through your library. And eventually there will be an audiobook. It is a slow process, but it will come out at some point.
That'll be awesome. So I see that you went far and wide with your book, which I am a strong advocate of. I will never understand why independent authors let themselves be isolated to one place,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word. Everybody who knows me knows exactly what I'm talking about and why
Yeah.
I feel that way. What made you decide to go ahead and make sure that your book was available wherever books are sold, in opposed to just that one place where the majority of the independent authors go running like it's, yeah.
Well, one, I hate that platform that you're talking about. And I don't want to give money to people who already have billions and billions and billions of dollars. Like, that's not, if anybody knows me, they know I'm like all about small businesses, all about supporting local businesses. And so part of it was that. But the larger part was I had actually gone through the publishing experience, publishing my husband's book a few years ago, and we had used Amazon and Drafted Digital and Ingram for different purposes and had not been exclusive on Amazon. And his book has been extremely successful as far as nonfiction federal policy books go, self-published books go. And so I knew sort of how to use these different platforms, but also most authors don't make money from their first book or like even their third book. And so for me, in publishing this, I had to say to myself, like, what are my actual goals here? Because I'm not going to make 10 grand likely from this book, although that would obviously be very nice. So what are my goals? And one of my big goals was to get this into libraries because I love libraries. Also, libraries, utilizing libraries as an amazing way to stick it to people like Jeff Bezos, who are like their whole thing is that you need to continue consuming. And our use of libraries is a way to support our local infrastructure and also local businesses. And so libraries were really important to me, but also because I love getting library books out on like Hoopla on Libby when I'm traveling. I love listening to audiobooks, especially on Libby. And so that was really important to me. Like, this is what I want for my book. So knowing that I'm not going to like magically sell 20,000 copies in the first year, what do I actually want to get out of this process? So part of it was learning. Part of it was, going through that process of designing a book cover. Part of it was, going through the process of editing and all these different things. But ultimately, I needed to think about non-monetary goals. Like, what do I actually want to see happen? And for me, this was, I really wanted it to be wide in libraries. And that can be hard, actually, as a self-published author. Hoopla in particular is extremely slow to approve self-published books, even though it was published under an imprint that they had previously done because of my husband's book. It took a long time and a lot of emails to get them to approve it. And it still took 3 months, even being extremely proactive. So it's not necessarily an easy process. I think sometimes people lean on KDP because maybe they can get paid for the pages that people read and things like that. So I would say, like, for my advice to authors would be really think about what you want from your debut novel or your novella or whatever you're publishing. Think about non-monetary goals, because it would be great if you make a boatload of money, but likely you won't. And so what do we actually want? What do we want out of this process, out of the end result? And for me, that was, I wanted it to be widely available. I want somebody to be able to go into their local bookstore and order it, but I also wanted them to be able to get it for free through the library.
That is awesome, awesome advice. So, all you writers out there, take notes. Take the time to think about exactly what you want for your book when you make the decision or which route you want to take to publish your book and make it available to the world. So, Oh my goodness. It was something else I wanted to say about that, and I just totally lost my train of thought. But it's all good. It's all good, y'all. Tell us where we can find you on social media
You
if
can
anybody
find me
wants to contact you.
You can find me at Luna Westish on Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, currently TikTok, although I'm contemplating maybe not having that TikTok account. I haven't decided yet. So, but you can definitely find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. And then I also have a website, lunawestish.com, where you can sign up for my newsletter. I haven't actually sent one out yet, but that is pending. And I look forward to hearing from folks. I'm open to questions or comments, or if you need some advice, I'm happy to try.
Yes, yes. Okay, we have a comment here from Kevin Mullen. Thank you, Kevin, for watching and interacting. He says, I think authors should find a writer friend far away and request each other's books at the local library. Yes, that is something that you can do. You can even go into your local library yourself. They don't have to know you're the author. Do you have this book? If you keep coming back asking over and over again, eventually it'll click like, let me see. They want this book here. Let me go check it out and get it in to the library. Now, one more thing that this is a thought that crossed my mind that I left out. So thank you, Kevin, for posting this comment. If you want your book in the library, if you want to like make the valiant effort to get a local bookstore, mom and pop shop to put your book on the shelf, they will not do it if you are on Amazon only. Okay, you have to use a distributor. You have to be far and wide because they do not purchase books from Amazon. Amazon is their competition. So I see a lot of authors constantly posting, oh, I want to get my book into the store. Oh, I want to get it into the library, but they're Amazon only. You cannot get it into the library and you cannot get it on a physical shelf if you are Amazon only. Just FYI, okay? All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Luna, for joining us here on the show today. This was a great conversation. And I think that your book is interesting. And not only will you get a chance to see the characters and how they progress and how they deal with life, you also get to explore Edinburgh, Scotland. Win win, win win. Do you have anything else that you want to tell our audience before we go today?
No, thank you so much for having me here.
I was like, Kevin just posted another comment. Should I put it up there? I don't like them either. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, y'all. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Writers with Purpose. You all have a great day, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye, everybody.